Good morning, my history scholars. We are on the ferry on the way to Statue of Liberty and Ellis Island. So, Ellis Island is where one of the prime spots where immigrants coming into America landed in the 1900s. And so it's a very fascinating place. It's a place where you can search your ancestry. There's just a lot of history there. And of course, the Statue of Liberty was a gift from the French, and really was that thing that people looked at when they came to New York Harbor and recognized, we have arrived in America, a place of great dreams and fresh starts for people. So you can hear the whistle. We are about ready to take off. So I will take some more video here in a little bit. Take care, guys.
Audio tour of the Ellis Island Museum. Food and gift services are located both aboard this vessel and in the shop near the ferry dock at Liberty Island. For those traveling with kids and children, the National Park Service requires that there be one chaperone with every 10 children and that the group remain together at all times. Ferry schedules are posted aboard this vessel and at the National Park Service Visitor Information Center on Liberty Island.
Just imagine the joy that was in their hearts that they often shared with us, but also that they could ride to America. And this was their last chance for hope to come from very tough situations. Here they are, finally arriving in America. They're coming up close to Liberty Island right now. We'll get some more video in a bit. So here's the view back up to Manhattan as we're taking the ferry over. The ferry runs from the very southern tip of Manhattan, and so that would be lower Manhattan there, the tall building. The point on the top of it is the One World Trade Center, the site of the World Trade Center, Twin Towers, and then you can see all the other large buildings there, primarily the financial district of New York. So kind of gives you a little bit of a glimpse. You can see the Brooklyn Bridge right over there, kind of in the distance. Of course, when the immigrants were coming through to Ellis Island, most of these really tall buildings were not there, but still the skyline would have been pretty amazing for somebody coming from Russia or Ireland, many other places where it came from. There she is, Lady Liberty. We're coming up on her. Again, think about how this would have felt to somebody coming into New York for the first time on the way to America. Just a few minutes ago, we had people cheering on the ferry boat. Made me think about what it must have been like for those on their steamships coming into America. We are now very close to dock. You can see Manhattan background, and then that is actually over there, Brooklyn and parts of Long Island. So again, this must have been for people coming in on their way to Ellis Island. Okay, so I'm now on Liberty Island. There's the ferry that brings you over, and you can see all around New York Harbor. is Lady Liberty. So we're gonna walk around and go take a look at Lady Liberty from the very front. It's interesting to hear the various languages being spoken here. And it just reminds me that as we're about to ready to go to Ellis Island, and even what Lady Liberty meant to the many immigrants who've come into New York Harbor, that we are, for the most part, a land of immigrants. And so it's just interesting to hear various languages and dialects and accents and such as we walk around. There's a cruise ship over in the distance. Those of you who have been on a cruise, I guarantee you the way that most of our immigrant families came to America did not come in the type of luxury that a modern cruise ship would be in. There she is, Lady Liberty. I'm gonna go around and get a view from the front here. I know this picture will not do justice, but I don't know, just an amazing feeling to see Lady Liberty in person. This is the third time I've stood at this point over the last 20 years, and I still get choked up every time I stop and see Lady Liberty. Lower Manhattan, right there. Okay, we just got off the ferry at Ellis Island. You can see that they're doing a lot of restoration here, but Ellis Island was a key place where immigrants came into, that came through New York Harbor in the late 1800s until the middle 1900s. A very important place in American history, and a place that every time I come here I get a little emotional. Talk a little bit more about that as we go inside. Well, I'm here on Ellis Island here. This chart shows over 20 million people who migrated to America in the period from 1800 to 1924. The vast majority of them from Europe, but also immigrants from Canada, Mexico, the South Pacific, and Asia. So we'll see in a little bit how that's going to change as the years go by, where immigration came from. Most came from hardship. We had things like the potato famine, wars, bad regimes that caused people to leave their homelands and flee to America. The vast majority of immigrants came in steerage, meaning they were basically put in the cargo hold of the ship. So put in bunks like this, just out in the open, no showers, limited places to use the restroom, overcrowded feeding areas, and not much in the way of nutritious food. You know, they show these pictures of these great ships, but the reality is most of them were treated like cargo. This is the Great Hall. In the peak of immigration, people would be staged in this hall to talk to an immigration officer. At its peak, 4,000 people a day came through Ellis Island. They would be seated and called up to talk to people, sent to have medical exams, and most came through in one day, but others who had medical issues or whose paperwork was not up to standard would sometimes spend days here, and ultimately they could have been sent back. It's a fairly small percentage, but thousands of people got sent back. That was part of the contract with the cruise lines, is that they had to bring back anyone who didn't pass through immigration. And so most of them were weeded out by the cruise lines themselves, and not even allowed to board the ship in Europe. But people came sick or got sick on the ship ride, and so that was a big point of fear for many people, was that they would not be judged healthy enough, or their paperwork would not be in order to be able to be accepted to the United States.
Coming to the United States is not how
Starting with the Immigration Act of 1924, the face of immigration changed quite a bit. 12 million people came through Ellis Island, but that was just a portion of the people who immigrated to the United States. And as we come later into time frame, not only do we have different we have quotas and other things like that, but where immigrants came from changed as we came to find more and more people coming from Asia and Latin America, and less immigrating from Europe.
She's going to say no, because she'd actually denied about 3 people who went up before me. And then 5 questions.
You can see from this that the areas in green and brown represent where immigration has come largely since 1965. So you can see that Latin America and Asia, and then now it's more Eastern Europe, Northern Asia, and Africa, where a lot of immigration is coming from. So it just gives you a feel for where immigration to America has come from. It's no longer primarily Europe. It's mostly now today it's from Latin America, Asia, and Africa. So just the changing face of immigration in the last 60 years. This is an interesting point that those in orange represent the cities that immigrants tend to arrive to in our current period. So it's interesting that while they used to go to industrial cities in the east or even coastal cities on both coasts, it's now basically the Sun Belt that is attracting most immigrants. So you can see San Jose, San Diego, Phoenix, Dallas, Houston, and Miami are where many immigrants are now coming into. So representing how America has come, not from an industrial way it was, where Detroit and Cleveland and Pittsburgh were where the jobs were, but now coming down to the Sun Belt where we live, like Phoenix. Well, here at Ellis Island, they're going through a big restoration project here, so it was hard to take a lot of video, but I think one of the big things I hope you take away from the few shots I took in there is that we as Americans, the American culture is really a culture of many people who have immigrated here, starting with the early settlers in the 1600s all the way through the settlers we have today coming from Asia and Latin America. They bring their parts to our culture, they assimilate into our culture, but keeping parts of their culture, and it becomes kind of the new American culture, as we've talked about. It's hard to imagine kind of American culture without having the other cultures that are a part of who we are. Imagine life without Mexican food, without pizza, without Chinese food or Thai food or whatever your favorite food is. And so America, we are a melting pot. We have taken the cultures of many cultures, and our modern culture reflects really pieces of all of those things. Immigration has changed over the years. It was mostly from Europe, going back to the 1600s, but as we go into the 1900s and certainly the 2000s, immigration is largely from Latin America, Asia, and Africa. And so hopefully this gave you a little taste of Ellis Island. I'm a little disappointed that I couldn't give you some better stuff, but hopefully it'll give you a little taste of it. Hopefully at some point in time in your lifetime, hopefully sooner rather than later, you can come and see Ellis Island. It is truly a moving experience. So I'm going to give you guys some questions to work on. You have a choice of two. You can either write one page on the Statue of Liberty, how we got the Statue of Liberty, what it took to get the Statue of Liberty set up. You can see her right over my shoulder right there. Or you can write a little bit about Ellis Island. So your choice, one page on Google Classroom, and write me one page about one of those two subjects. So it's kind of free for you to do some research and come up with something that you find very interesting and teach me a little something. So I hope you have a great day, my wonderful high school history scholars. I do miss you, and I hope you are having a great day. Bye-bye.